Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the introduction to my Final Fantasy Tactics Challenge series, where we will be taking a build from every mainline Final Fantasy game and their sequels, and using that build to play through a full run of Final Fantasy Tactics. For those of you who have stuck around this long and thought the channel might be dead, I thought the channel was dead too. Just kind of priorities shifted over time. Life got in the way. There are a bunch of different things going on. But for those of you who wanted to see more perfect game runs, I will be bringing those back in the future. I have a plan for that, so don't worry. I wanted to show off this idea first. This was a challenge that kind of hit me one day. I thought it was really cool and wanted to share it with all of you. So essentially what I did was I took my copy of Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions. I added a mod to it to get rid of the slowdown effect on attacks. And I have used a save file editor to create a build for every Final Fantasy game. I'm still working on 13 through 16. I need to play 16 again just to even figure out how I'm going to make that one function. But the rest of them have all got the builds done, and they're good to go. Essentially, what I did was I made a roster of all the characters from that game. I gave them their names, like Final Fantasy VI has Terra, Locke, Edgar, etc. I gave them what their job would be, and also access to any jobs they would need. So that's relevant if like they can change jobs during the game. If a character has a change to their job, like Cecil in Final Fantasy IV. And I made sure they had jobs unlocked for any abilities that they can use from a job that is not their default job. So we can have that set as their secondary ability, etc., as well as like reaction, support, movement ability. So they should have everything unlocked that they need. I maxed out the job points for all of them just because it minimizes grinding time. I don't think people want to watch me sit here and try to grind for JP to learn abilities. So this way, it's done, and we can just kind of learn things as they become available to us. So I did that. I gave everyone their starting equipment, and where it was applicable, I gave them their zodiac sign, as well as altered their starting level and stats. So when you use the save file editor, it will update their stats if you change their job or their equipment, but it does not change their stats if you change their level. So I had to find this Google Doc guide or Google Sheets where someone actually went through and did all the math to figure out what every job stats would be at every level in the game. So I used that guide to determine what their stats should be. So if there's any issues there, it's a problem with the math in that Sheets document. Just to save time, I had to use that instead of like trying to level everything manually and figure it out that way. It's just way too time consuming. So I used that guide to figure that out. That sheet stock, it was really a guide. And then I also, so it's for zodiac signs. In some Final Fantasy games, they have canonical birthdays. Like if you look at the instruction manual of Final Fantasy VII, they all have birthdays in that. The Ultimania guides also have canonical birthdays too. That starts with Final Fantasy VI. So like I said, where applicable, I made sure all that stuff was relevant, and I added in items that you get in that Final Fantasy game. They're difficult to get in tactics. Like for example, in Final Fantasy One, you can get 4 ribbons. Or 3 ribbons. So I just modded in that number of ribbons into the game because otherwise it's just too tenuous to deal with. And like I modded in the oh geez, what's another one? Like the Robe of Lords for Final Fantasy IX, stuff like that. So those are going to be in the inventory, but they will not be accessible till a certain point in the game. So with that, let us talk about the rules of this challenge. So rule number 1 is we can only use characters, jobs, abilities, items, and equipment that were available in that Final Fantasy game. So like for Final Fantasy 1, we can have a monk and a master in the party, but we cannot use any punch art abilities because those did not exist in Final Fantasy 1. Rule number 2, so every battle is tied to a specific area, so we can only use what would be available in that area. So let me pull up my battle list here. I went through every Final Fantasy game, took notes of the time and where the time was at. at every point in the game. And oh, it's not letting me move. Okay, well there's a guide up here which shows on every tactics battle what that stage of the game is equal to in terms of time in that base Final Fantasy game. So we will be starting in Mondalia Plains on all of these. For Final Fantasy One, the Mondalia Plains battle is the Chaos Shrine. So we will effectively be in the Chaos Shrine. So we can only use gear that you can buy in Cornelia or that you find in the Chaos Shrine right at the start of the game, and then that continues all the way through. Every area has its own unique equipment and abilities. Um, Rule number three is that similar equipment and abilities are okay. So, like for example, in Final Fantasy One, again, I mean, it's just an example for all of them. So for white magic that you can buy in Cornelia, there's a spell called Dia 1, which deals damage to undead enemies. There's no spell that like specifically does this in tactics, but because you get a Dia spell every time you get a cure spell, I'm just gonna say that's the same as using cure on undead enemies. So anything that's like similar like that is okay to use. As long as functionally it is the same. It doesn't have to be called the same thing. It doesn't have to do specifically the same thing, but functionally it has to be the same. And so that's also like Gaia gear from the Fantasy Four is basically just Earth clothes. It's stuff like that. And then along that same vein, rule number four is if there is something that exists in a Final Fantasy game that does not exist in Tactics, then we just ignore it. So like there's a black magic spell for level 1 in Cornelia that lowers an enemy's evasion. There's no spell on Tactics that does that, so we just don't ever use that ability essentially. So that one was pretty easy. Rule number five. So guests must begin the battle equipped with the Stoneshooter. So this also applies to battles where a forced Ramza would not be usable. So like Ramza's Lock in Final Fantasy VI. So any areas Lock would not be fighting in, Ramza would have the Stoneshooter equipped. So and I was thinking about how best to handle this because obviously guests like in Chapter 2 with Agrius and Gafgarian, they can kind of make the battles they're in pretty cheap. And even like unequipping them and trying to immediately take them out, they're still a target for enemies, so they still draw fire away from the main party, which kind of defeats the purpose of running the game solo with that team. So I figured the best way to deal with that was to make them start the battle petrified so they can't even be targeted by it. So in every single one of these, I modded in some Stoneshooters so that they can start the game equipped with those. So that I mean, considering what that does, that's okay in my book. Just because it takes them out of the battle. So rule number one: only characters, jobs, abilities, items, and equipment available in the host Final Fantasy game are available for use in the tactics run. Rule number two, every battle is tied to specific areas, so you can only use what's available up to that point in the game. Rule number three, similar abilities and equipment are okay. It's all about the functionality. Rule number four, rule number four, sorry, is abilities not in Final Fantasy Tactics that are in the host Final Fantasy game are not used. And rule number five, guests or battles with unused Ramza, they must be equipped with a Stoneshooter. So there is one thing that I'm still debating on, and that is the use of math skill. So okay, here's the problem, right? So we have white magic and black magic. In some games, we just have all magic under one umbrella term. In tactics, spells that are classified as white magic will include white magic, mystic arts, and time magic. And for black magic, it's the same thing. It gets spells that be considered under black magic, mystic arts, and time magic. So we need 3 ability slots uh, for a capacity of 2, which does not work. Which means I had to find ways to work around this, and my first thought was to use the save file editor to mod abilities between jobs, but it turns out you can't do that. What you can do in the save file editor is turn everyone into Kleshian, the sorcerer who has all magic, and he can have all magic as the ability. However, as I learned from looking at the skill set, all magic is not actually every spell in the game. It is just a collection of the most powerful spells. So that actually does not do what we want it to do. So, what this means for us is we have to use math skill in order to get every spell usable in tactics. And I was really, really on the fence about this because math skill does make it cheap, and I'm going to avoid using it as long as I possibly can. But there's some situations where I think it just might be unavoidable. Well, even in Final Fantasy One, we're going to see it's already on somewhere. There's no other way I can set this up properly. So yeah, those are the rules. Math skill. We're just going to try to avoid using it for as long as we possibly can. That's just kind of the rule with that. But if we need to use it, it is there for us. Only when we absolutely need to. So, without further ado, let us check out the Final Fantasy One party, shall we? So let us go down here. Where did I map this to? I think I mapped it here. Yeah. So as you can see, so we have a Final Fantasy One build with the Light Warriors, 2 with Furion, 3 with Lunith, 4 with Cecil, 4 with the After Years with Theodore, 5 with Bartz, 6 with Locke, 7 with Cloud, 8 with Crisis Core with Zack, 8 with Squall, 9 with Zidane or Zidane or Zidane or however you want to pronounce his name, 10 with Tidus, 10-2 with Tidus question mark because basically that's just gonna be the 3 girls, so Rams is always gonna have a Stoneshooter equipped. Actually, how am I gonna handle the Y-Graph duel on that one? I'm gonna have to think about that. And then 12 with Vaughn. And so the 15th slot is reserved for sequence battles. So like when you go into Rio Veins and you have to do 3 battles in a row and you can't leave to level up or get equipment between the battles. We have the 15th slot reserved for that. And then I have 13, 13, 2, Lightning Returns, 15, and 16 going on a separate memory stick. So we will be using that for those ones. So let us start this up. Let's check out our team. So yeah, first and foremost, Delita, Stoneshooter. He is out of the battle. And I have another Stoneshooter in my inventory for Algus. Unfortunately, he's going to have to be in the fight in Mandalia Plains since you can't equip him before the battle begins. But as soon as that fight's over, we're giving him a Stoneshooter and he's done. I don't think anyone will object to Algus just being a statue the whole time. So now for the actual party, the 4 Warriors of Light. So in the original Final Fantasy One, you have 6 jobs that you can choose between 4 characters. You can have the same job between a few different characters. So we have warriors who solve up into knights, which would be a knight on here. Thieves solve up into ninjas, which are thieves and ninjas on here. Monks who solve up into masters, which are monks on here. Then you have red mage, white mage, black mage solve up into red wizard, white wizard, and black wizard, which are geomancer, red mage, and white mage, respectively. I think I don't remember the order I initially said. So red mage is geomancer, and we're going to see this come up a few times throughout the series because first of all, their equipment choices are very similar. Second of all, their stat growth is similar. They get kind of like even physical and magic attack without really excelling in either one. So as we see here, what's available in Cornelia is you have only body armor and then a few weapons. I think you get like a sword, a knife, a hammer, and nunchakus there, which nunchakus don't exist in tactics. So we have here the broadsword, which you get Cornelia, and the chainmail, which red mages can equip. In geomancy, we can't use, that doesn't exist in Final Fantasy One. And he has equip heavy armor. There are no reaction abilities until Final Fantasy V, and there are movement abilities here, but they come in much later. We have consistent moving abilities, starting with Final Fantasy II. So Yeah, so then we have arithmetic's secondary because I can't avoid that with him. So why is Ramza going to be the red mage slash geomancer? That is all because of the duel with Wygrave. So remember, we cannot use abilities that don't exist in this game. We cannot use any battle skill. We cannot use any punch art. We cannot use any thief. And the item pool in Final Fantasy I is very poor. So Ramza has to be able in that battle to heal himself with magic and do damage with magic. And because that's too early in the game for Holy, the only thing we can really do is make him use both white magic and black magic. So he has to be this for that one specific battle. And I'll get into the spells he has in a second, but this is his initial setup. Oh, I also with the save file editor, I also changed everyone's bravery and faith just to kind of make them generally even. And when zodiac signs are not a factor like in this, I either left the initial zodiac sign that was assigned to that unit, or I just used a random number generator to create one for them. So yeah, that was the situation there. So that's Ramza the Red Mage. So Thief. This is probably the most controversial choice. Um, and so having two black mages would objectively be better than having a black mage and a thief in this build. However, I wanted to have one unique class for each character, so that might bite me in the ass later. We will see. I don't know yet. But we have, yeah, so the second Light Warrior is a thief. We cannot use steel. That does not exist in Final Fantasy 1. They have items secondary, and they have equip heavy armor with a dagger and a leather armor. The thief cannot equip a chainmail in Final Fantasy 1. So talk about that limited item pool. This is based on the original Final Fantasy 1, not the Pixel remaster, not the PSP edition, not the Game Boy edition. The initial Final Fantasy 1, which has 6 items, and 3 of those items are sleeping bag, tent, and cottage, which are completely irrelevant to tactics and don't exist in this game either. What are the other 3 items, you ask? Potions, antidotes, and gold needles. That is it. There are no Phoenix Downs, no remedies, no protection from any of these other status effects, no ethers, elixirs, no high potions. With the item command in this build, we can only heal 30 HP, which is going to be obsolete very quickly. We can only cure poison, and we can only cure petrification. And curing poison is not a big deal in tactics, so like this is almost essentially useless. Petrification comes up so infrequently, it can be useful. This could actually come in handy in some situations, but for the most part, we're not going to need it. So, yeah, the Thief secondary item is not good. However, the reason why I went with Thief and not Knight or Monk is because Thieves can, when they level up into ninjas, they can use black magic, which means they can learn haste. So they can stand in the background to kind of haste their allies, which is going to have its usefulness. I'm sure. I hope. I hope this wasn't a bad decision. I'm just trying to justify it at this point. So that's Light Warrior number 2. Light Warrior number 3 is our trusty Black Mage, and they have a rod and clothing. So rods don't exist in Cornelia and Final Fantasy. This is where I just kind of had to make a judgment call. I could have just given them no weapon. That would have been fine. So they're not going to be physically attacking anyway. So for that point, it also really doesn't matter. But they can equip knives in Final Fantasy 1. They cannot equip knives in tactics. So I just gave them a rod just to substitute being bad with a knife. Same idea. They have black magic and mystic arts, because those are the only 2 spell categories they need in Cornelia. So in every spell category, the character, every level has 4 spells that can be learned, and the character can learn 3 levels in that spell. So Cornelia has level 1. Black magic has fire, bolt, sleep, and focus. So focus is the one we can't use because it lowers evasion. So that means we learned fire, thunder, and sleep here. So if we scroll down here, yep, fire, thunder. Um, Blizzard or ice is actually in tier two. They separated them in this one for some interesting reason. And then not Oracle, Orator, Mystic. The names are all different on this one. So we should have Repose is sleep, right? Yeah, that's sleep. Okay, I got the right one for that. All of the names are different. I'm used to playing the PlayStation 1 version, which does not use these names, so I'm a little unsure about some of these. Oh, so and that also leads me to the lowered evasion. There is one use for it, which oh god, which one of these is Foxbird? Um, Trepidation? Yeah, okay, Trepidation. So if a unit has Blade Grasp or Shira Hadori equipped as their reaction ability, their evasion becomes their bravery. So in that one instance, using Trepidation on them would lower their bravery, thus lowering their evasion. So technically that can kind of work, but there's only one fight where that's even an issue. And just because magic is so much more useful in this build anyway, it's not even going to come up, I don't think. So yeah, that just Firebolt and Sleep, that's what we needed. So for white, so then yeah, our white mage, so this build had to have a white mage, especially because items are just so awful. It had to have a white mage. So battle axe, clothing, white magic, item, and equip axes. So white mages in Final Fantasy One can equip hammers. There are no hammers in tactics. I'm considering hammers and axes to be similar enough that they're interchangeable. Of course, them wielding this doesn't make them super strong. So the white magic spells available in Cornelia are Cure 1, Dio 1, um, Protect 1, and Invisible 1. So Invisible 1 raises the caster's evasion. It can only be used on the caster. And there's no spell that raises evasion, so that's the one we're not using here. The other three spells do exist. So yeah, once again, Dia is going to be the same as Cure. So Cure will be both Cure and Dia, and then we have Protect. And so I forgot to mention this earlier. These spells, these white magic spells, except for Dia, these are all single target. So if I use these in tactics, I have to make sure they only ever hit one ally. Now, Dia, that is multiple targets, so I can hit multiple undead enemies with Cure. I cannot hit multiple allies with Cure. I cannot hit multiple allies with Protect. And with Black Magic, Fire and Thunder are both also single target, but Sleep is multi target. So that can hit multiple units. The Sleep is actually really good in tactics. Which brings us back to Ramsay, our Light Warrior number one. I gave him, he definitely has Cure. Yeah, he has Cure. You need to have two that have Cure. I gave him Thunder. That is the more useful of the two elements available to us. Just because weather more often works out for lightning. There's more things weak against lightning. Um, and then I'm pretty sure I gave him Sleep was the other one, right? Or Repose. Yeah, so just because Sleep is such a good status effect on tactics, like this could actually save us because this build is going to be rough, and I don't even know if it's going to be possible. So also with anyone that has arithmetics, I just gave them everything in there just to maximize the possibilities. And that was just the best move there. And he has to have this because he's already wasted one slot for geomancy. And then he already has three that he needs to fill. And it's I just there was nothing else there was nothing else I could do to make that functionally correct. So here we are. Accept that for what it is because I already have and I have to. So yeah, that is how we have the Final Fantasy One team. Um, so with that being said, I will be streaming this on Twitch, and I will link my Twitch profile in the description of this video. And my schedule is going to be Mondays, 4:15 Pacific, 7:15 Eastern, Wednesdays, 4:15 Pacific, 7:15 Eastern. These are PM. And then Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And these are North American time zones, if my accent didn't give that away. So, yeah, and so the Monday and Wednesday streams are going to go on hour and a half to 2 hours. By that time, I'll need to kind of wind down for the night and eat something. And then Sundays, we're going to kind of just play it by ear, see how the day goes. Probably a max of 3 hours so I can kind of get out and get some exercise and do some of that other stuff those days. First stream will be Monday, April 6th. So Monday, April 6th at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time will be the first stream of this. I hope to see you guys there. If this is interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on Monday. Thank you.